Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Delegate Janelle Wilkins, and the date is Tuesday, January 20th. We are going to now start our first bill hearings of the session for the Ways and Means Committee. We're very pleased to have our amazing colleagues joining us. All of the bills today are sponsor only, and later on we do have a jointly assigned bill with the Appropriations Committee, and those members will be coming over. Before we fully get started, I did have some additional announcements for the Ways and Means Committee members that I did not mention during our organizational meeting. One being that for our first day of bill hearings, I do have some donuts back there for you in the committee kitchen, so feel free to enjoy. But in addition to that, I wanted to mention, in terms of expectations for the schedule, we will probably have a lighter workload than in previous years because we no longer have election law, we no longer have racing. But my preference, if we do need to go into a Monday or Friday, is for us to do a Friday if we absolutely have to. However, I'd rather stay here late while we're here and have everyone enjoy their Monday and their Friday. So in terms of how we'll be approaching the schedule. So you see we're getting these bill hearings started early. Let's work very hard on the front end and work through our pieces of legislation. There is going to be an updated subcommittee sheet that will be shared. We did have to make a few adjustments, so please be on the lookout for any movement so you can have your updated subcommittees as well. In addition to that, a few notes. We do have some new AV equipment, so we're all going to have to practice some patience as the staff is learning the system and as we're also adjusting. And so there could be some issues with virtual witnesses as well, but we will do our best. A reminder that we have 2 minutes per witness, and the timer will show on the screen. Today we don't have witnesses, but timer will show on the screen. The sponsors are on timed, but we do just ask you to please be cognizant of the length of your remarks. We will not allow any PowerPoints or presentations or videos. So if there is someone that would like to share a video or a presentation in the future, they can send it as a PDF for us to review or send it out to our emails. And then finally, a reminder that all testimony sign up is through My MGA on the MGA website, and it's 48 hours before the hearing. And committee members, I would like to remind everyone to please submit their snack tax if you haven't already. As the Ways and Means Committee, we do levy a tax on ourselves, and so we do ask you to pay that tax to help with refreshments that are in the kitchen. And in order to anticipate for members, in general, the way that our weeks will go is that on Tuesdays, those will probably be revenue days. You can expect revenue days on Tuesdays, education days on Wednesdays, and also on Thursdays, we'll have a mix of education and gaming and state revenues as well. So Thursdays will be a bit of a mix, so that's how you can anticipate some of the schedule. So those are the announcements. Thank you for bearing with us, and we will call up the first bill, HB 98. Delegate Cardin has the honor of being the very, very first member before us. Inheritance tax beneficiaries of limited means installment payments. Let's give him a round of applause for being the first.
Thank you. I think the first bill in Annapolis. So thank you very much, Madam Chair, and congratulations to you on your new appointment. And to the members of the Ways and Means Committee, I'm John Cardin, and I used to serve on this committee. It's by far the second best committee in Annapolis. If you ask me what the first best committee is, I always like to leave my options opened. So it's the second best. You have heard this bill before, which is, I'm assuming, why it's a sponsor only. I've had this bill in, I think, for 3 years, and we've really toned it down and narrowed it so that, number one, it does not have a fiscal impact. There is a fiscal delay, according to the fiscal note, but does not have a fiscal impact. What this bill does is it came from a constituent who was the nephew of a person he was living with, who then willed him, or not, didn't, excuse me, left him, I think it was in his will, I'm not sure, his house. And he then got the house, but he had to pay about a $50,000 inheritance tax for the house because he was not one of these 7 relatives that avoid an inheritance tax. So he was unable to pay that tax, so he had to sell the house, which he was living in order to be able to pay the inheritance tax and then find other residents to live in after his uncle died. So what this bill does, basically, it gives people of limited means the option to be able to basically get on a payment plan to pay the inheritance tax over time. It would be through, I believe, it's drafted to go through the Register of Wills office. I'm not exactly sure why it goes through there, but that's how it does. And again, it doesn't have any impact. We originally wanted to reduce the amount of tax that people of limited means would have, but instead of doing it that way, we're just trying to, because of the fiscal impact the state is in right now, trying to keep everything neutral. It's just to extend it out over a number of years so that a person, and this only qualifies for a person who is living in, this is a primary residence that has been given to them through somebody who's not their father, mother, sister, brother, son or daughter, or spouse. So an uncle, an aunt, a friend gives them a house. It's going to be their primary residence. They want to live there. They should be able to pay an extended inheritance tax in order to be able to keep it as their primary residence. That's the essence of the bill, and I hope you guys will consider it.
Thank you so much.
By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that my 2 legislative staff are here in the back who helped me with this. Just want to make sure they get a shout out. It's Peyton Baranco and Ben Nathan. They can raise their hands. Raise your hands.
Raise your hands higher so we can see them. Be proud.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Delegate. Any questions on this bill? Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Man, I like that. So just for clarification, it's only for real property, real estate?
Only for real estate that is going to be that you have to certify, I don't know if it's by affidavit, that's going to be your primary residence.
Okay, so if it's other assets included, such as a truck or other things that,
I mean, if you got a truck, you got willed a truck and you had to pay some sort of an inheritance tax to keep it, this would not apply.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just taking a quick look, it says they can apply for a payment plan, but there's no sort of timing on it. It's entirely up to Register of Wills what kind of program they would put them in?
So it was, I mean, the idea is to give them some flexibility. I have no problem with some guidelines, but I think that, of course, you can't do it over 100 years. It would have to be, I mean, when I do some creditors' rights legal work, and when we come up with payment plans to pay back a creditor, oftentimes they want to do it within 36 months or 3 years, but they will extend that out to 5 years or even 10 years, depending. For example, Geico will extend something out to 10 years because they just want to do what the person can afford to make sure that they're getting payments every month.
But ultimately, we'd have no guidelines, and that'd be their
We
prerogative.
have no guidelines, and this legislation certainly doesn't. I mean, there can certainly be regulations put in by the Register of Wills.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Long.
Madam Chair, I had a real quick question. Would there be a lien against the property? Or how would they secure the money that's owed?
So, I mean, you're getting into real estate law that I'm not as familiar with, but I believe that anybody who has that has rights to a property automatically can apply for a lien until they're paid off. So I would imagine the state or the county, wherever you guys, Stan would probably know this better than I would, but I don't know if it's the state or the county that collects and that handles, but they would probably be able to get, I apologize, Stan, I didn't mean to, but they would probably be able to get a lien against it. So that's a good question. Just don't know the answer.
And I guess my last question would be, and I'm just throwing this out there, what about if a new owner could actually take and make a mortgage on the property and pay off the inheritance? Is there a way they can facilitate that so we can actually make it a more?
So that kind of goes back to Delegate Ebersol's question. I mean, the interested party would want to be monitoring this and making sure, because, for example, if they choose not to make it their primary residence, then they are precluded from being able to have this payment plan. So there needs to be somebody kind of watching over, and if they are able to pay it off with a low-rate mortgage, that might make sense. They should be able to do that, and it would be, the best part is it would presumably be interest-free because the state's not charging them interest on this payment plan.
Right, I was talking about like a bank or another lender outside.
I don't know why.
I'm just throwing that out there, and that's good, thank you.
Yeah, but there wouldn't be, presumably there's no mortgage on it because they've got, it's willed to them, so.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 98.
Thank you. I
Thank
hope you'll
you.
give it a favorable review, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. We will give it strong consideration. House Bill 175 is next. Delegate Ziegler, income tax credit, venison donation alterations.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. Congratulations to you both. This is a bill that I had last year as well. And a couple of years ago, we passed a tax credit for anyone who shot a deer, had it processed, and donated the venison to a food bank or nonprofit that donates food. And there was a cap on that tax credit of $300. So you could only get that tax credit for 5 deer. And this bill would repeal that maximum that you can get so that there would be no ceiling on how many deer you could donate to a food bank. So we all know the tremendous damage that deer do to, certainly to farmers, to drivers, the ticks diseases they carry. The overpopulation of deer is certainly a big problem. And this was intended to incentivize hunters to hunt more deer, mostly because the actual processing fee is closer to $100, and this would cover most of it, but not all of it. But, you know, it gets very expensive. If you wanted to kill 20 deer and donate them to food banks, that would be very costly. So this is intended to address essentially our deer problem. But this year, I feel like maybe it's more about food banks than it is about deer, or at least equally so, that our food pantries are really having a hard time. And this is a very healthy source of protein. And I think we would be killing 2 birds, if you will, with 1 stone if we were able to pass this legislation. It does have a fiscal note. I kind of take issue with the fiscal note. I hope they're right that many deer would get killed, but I'm not sure I really believe it. And I do want to point out that much of the damage that's done is to farmers. So what we would be losing with this tax credit, we would be taking back in income taxes, because farmers lose tens of thousands of dollars every year to deer damage. So with that, I ask for a favorable report on House Bill 175.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Any questions? All right. Oh, Delegate Perlakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Ziegler, for the legislation. So I'm trying to remember back. So I think it was just last session that we enacted the credit, or was that 2 sessions ago?
It was 2 sessions ago.
2 sessions ago, okay. And I see that Maryland Food Banks is supporting the legislation. Have they indicated to you at all, like, what kind of numbers they're seeing in terms of donations of venison meat since we reenacted the tax credit? And if there's been any change, since we put the credit in place?
No, but that is a great question. I should find that out. I'll try and get some information on that. Thank you.
It'd be helpful to know what the utilization's been like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the hearing for House Bill 175. Thank you so much, Delegate. We'll now call up House Bill 24. Delegate Metzger.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. What a joy it is to be into the room that I gnawed my teeth right there in the third pew. Sound like I'm in church, doesn't it? What a joy it is. Speaking of venison, by the way, venison has a lot of protein in it, so it's a good idea to pass that. House Bill 24 is a voluntary aids, school chaplains. I need to start by prefacing this. By the way, my name is Delegate Rick Metzger from District 6 in Baltimore County. And in recent years, you know, there's been a lot of school violence and different things. And we talk about young people getting wraparound services. And what happens is a lot of times the wraparound services, ladies and gentlemen, comes after the student has been in trouble. Several years ago, when I thought about this bill and how it came to being, is that my wife and I was coming back from a restaurant, and we were going past Rossville Boulevard in Essex, and there's a railroad crossing. And as I looked, there was a boy that was on top of this railroad crossing, and he was about to jump off. And my wife, I made her just about to wreck the car to get out because I felt I needed to speak to this kid, young boy. And I was able to talk him down off the ledge. And he began, as he was up on this ledge about to jump off, he was talking about his family and how that he had nobody to talk to. And I said, there's somebody to talk to, and that's me right now. So we began to talk. And make a long story short, I was able to talk him down off the platform. And then it excited me this past June. I was able to shake his hand when he walked across the stage at Kenwood High School for the Towson University, Towson's graduation. And that young man has stayed in my life since that's been 3.5 years ago. But the National Association of Christian Lawmakers that I'm a member of, in fact, I'm the state chair here in Maryland, has there's about 16 other states that has this program. It doesn't cost the school a nickel. In fact, I ran it past the school superintendent, and she loves the idea. In fact, Kenwood High School has implemented a similar program to this. And it's just for people to go into a high school, just a mentor, to be a father figure or a mother figure. Just for an example, just to walk through the cafeteria and see the young man or young lady sitting by themselves that looks lonely. And you talk there and you just say, can I sit down and have a cup of soda with you or drink a soda and chat? And you become a friend to that person. And I believe, ladies and gentlemen, this legislation would be tremendous in the schools today with the crime. As you know, we have chaplains throughout the military with the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard, and so forth. Good afternoon, Mr. Buckle. Nice you could join us.
Good afternoon. Good to see you.
But these chaplains.
I was going to vote for this bill, too.
The chaplains, as you know, they must have to go through a background check as procedures. But I believe this would be a tremendous asset to the Maryland state school system, and I appreciate a very favorable outcome. God bless you.
Thank you for this bill, Delegate. Any questions? All right, seeing no questions, this concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 24. Next up, House Bill 161. Delegate Ruth.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, congratulations to both of you and to the entire committee. I'm excited to be here in the new and refreshed Ways and Means Committee. I'm here, for the record, I'm Delegate Sheila Ruth representing District 44B, and I'm here presenting House Bill 161. This is a bill that passed the Senate last year, 45-0. And it did have one amendment in the Senate, which we have included in the version that we introduced this year. My Senate cross-file sponsor is Senator Ben Brooks. The problem that this is trying to solve is that when gas stations close and go out of business, often they stay abandoned for a long time. And you probably have seen these abandoned gas stations in various places around the state. Part of the reason for that is they have underground storage tanks, and some of them need remediation. So either they have to be opened up as another gas station, and maybe the economic conditions weren't right for a gas station there, and that's why it closed. Or if they're going to be converted to something else, then they need those underground storage tanks removed, and they need environmental remediation. So this bill very simply authorizes counties and municipalities to create a tax credit that will encourage those gas stations to be converted to some other land use so that can be beneficial to the community. The bill that we had last year required the state to reimburse the counties 50%. That was the amendment that the Senate put on last year, as they changed a shall to a may, so that the state may reimburse, but it's not putting the state on the hook for anything, which is understandable given we don't know what type of a tax credit the counties might enact, because this does give them the discretion on the details for that. And so with that, I ask for a favorable report and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Question from Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So would this only be for a shuttered gas station, or would it encourage gas stations that are actively in business employing folks to, if they close and become something else, then this would be entitled to them?
I believe that the language is flexible enough that the counties could make that judgment themselves.
Thank you.
Delegate Buckle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think you answered a little bit of the question. You changed the bill because I know some of the concern with it is if the state had to reimburse 50% of the county tax credit, and I'll preface that we've done it before. I've done Lust leaking underground storage tank litigation. It's extremely expensive because you violate things called the CERCLA and RCRA and these other federal statutes where benzene, toluene, MBTE is the main thing in gas. I can't, do you know what, I can't pronounce it, metrobethyltoluene, something like that. MBTE is in gas, and once it gets into the groundwater, it's a carcinogen that cannot be remediated. So you have to dig it all out for miles around and all that stuff. So the cost of like one gas station can be, millions and millions of dollars. If the state is not going to reimburse the counties or localities for it, I know MACO still supports it. Is there any sense that the counties or localities would actually do it? Because they've got pretty pressing budget concerns too. So now they'd be taking 100% hit and then coming to the state and saying, well, help me remediate the hit, and then we'd have the discretion to help them or not?
Thank you for the question, Delegate. That's an excellent question. And I spoke to several developers who have actually done conversions of gas stations. And there's quite a variation because of how much contamination there is.
Right.
Removing the underground storage tanks, the estimate I was given is $100,000 just to remove the tanks, if there's no other remediation needed. But then depending on how much, if there is contamination, how much contamination, it could certainly go up from there. There is, for those serious cases that you talk about, there is also already a brownfields tax credit that can be used for those serious cases. But that has a very high bar to qualify for. And so this was supposed to be for those less serious cases that just need some work. And I did actually have spoken to various local legislators in several jurisdictions who feel that this would be beneficial to them, that they have abandoned gas stations in their districts, and that this would be beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, everybody does. It's really mainly the older ones, at least
Yeah.
in my experience, the ones that were built in maybe the 1970s and the tanks weren't updated very much. They typically have contamination. Modern tanks, particularly things in the last, this century, they have a shell around them essentially, that
Right.
even if they have a leak within the line, it doesn't
Right.
allow it to go out into the groundwater or contaminate too much of the soil. It's a great idea. I just always wonder, will anybody use it? Having authored and passed tax credits before in the state of Maryland, that sounds like a great idea, and then no one actually ever uses them because of the economic conditions. But I appreciate it. It's an interesting concept.
Thank you.
Delegate Hornberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yep, and we talked about this bill last year. One of the things to consider is that ultimately the party responsible for the cleanup cost would be the prior owner of the gas station. And what's happening and what we see is that it's a corporation or it's an LLC. They're knowingly putting gas in that tank, even though because there are monitoring requirements, even though it may have a small leak, they're not reporting or underreporting, and then basically they get to a point where they can't legally operate anymore and they just walk away. And now you have this brownfield contaminated cleanup site. Once that cost is determined, the $200,000, $2 million, whatever it is there a mechanism for the group that's now going to pay it, be it the county or be it the state, the ability to go and recuperate those costs from the prior tenant? And is that something?
Recoup them, either way.
Yeah, recoup the money. Do recuperations. And get that money back, because ultimately, we don't want our taxpayer dollars going towards something that really a bad actor should be paying for.
Sure, thank you. And this bill that's beyond the scope of this bill. I certainly think that if there was liability, that we should be going after them. My understanding, and I would have to refresh my memory on this, I apologize, is that there already are requirements for if you're shutting down a gas station for, you have to do certain things in terms of neutralizing the underground storage tanks. I believe you have to, if you're not going to remove them, you have to fill them with a material.
Yeah, and MDE tries to go after these groups, but the ones that are really bad off, we have some in my community. Postage stamp, very small lot that operated for 50 years, and the value of the cleanup exceeds the value of the piece of property. And any savvy business owner is just going to walk.
Right.
When that happens. Okay, maybe that's another bill, but just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Long.
Just had a real quick question. Do you know if liability insurance is required when they install these new tanks? Is there any repercussions if there's a leak?
Thank you for the question, and I would have to go back and look at my notes from last year, but I believe that there is something that companies are supposed to have to cover that when they close down. But I can get the answer to that and get back to you on that.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the bill hearing for House
Thank you.
Bill 161. Thank you so much, Delegate Ruth. Now calling up House Bill 211, Delegate Naraki. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair. Good to see all of my distinguished colleagues today, Delegate Long as well. So this bill, I know we hear often that we have simple bills, and I truly believe that this one actually is a simple bill. So for the record, I'm Delegate Ryan Iraqi, and I'm requesting a favorable report on HB 211. It's a Baltimore County property tax credit for the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge number 34. It would authorize Baltimore County to grant a property tax credit for the Maryland Fraternal Order of Police Lodge number 34 in Middle River. FOP Lodge 34 represents the men and women of the Maryland Transportation Authority Police throughout the state of Maryland, even though the lodge is in Middle River. They seek to promote their interest in safety as well as encouraging social, charitable, and educational activities at this facility. The group is a nonprofit. It's largely funded through membership dues, and a property tax credit would relieve a significant burden and allow the organization to further increase its work, not only on behalf of the citizens of Maryland, but also in the community as well. There are already over 25 similar community organization buildings in Baltimore County with a similar property tax credit. So we're not reinventing the wheel here in Baltimore County with something like this. This bill would simply add the FOP Lodge 34 building to that list that already exists inside of state law. Should the county council grant the property tax credit, it would have a very minimal impact on the county's budget. The most recent property tax bill for the lodge was about $12,534. While the Baltimore County operating budget, for instance, was like $4.78 billion. So we're talking about a really small impact overall. And actually, the fiscal note just came back, and the fiscal note even puts that number a little bit less at about $9,600. I guess we've kind of reevaluated property values in the area or something like that, but it's a little bit less than even the $12,000 from their bill last year. In addition to being an active union hall for its members, this facility is also a regional hub for community meetings. Numerous large organizations utilize the facility for award ceremonies, banquets, holiday celebrations, and other events. The lodge also hosts well-attended events, including annual breakfast with Santa and trunk or treat festivities for the community. The property also sits on the border of District 7 and District 8, so it is literally right on the border, meaning that it's a hub of accessibility for various community meetings, including Baltimore County, for instance, is going to host a meeting there on February the 5th. The Baltimore County Department of Public Works and Transportation will host a meeting there to look at a sewer line expansion in the area. So the county government is already utilizing this building often for community meetings like this. And the Baltimore County Police Department already utilizes this building and the facilities to stage for activities, police activities in eastern Baltimore County. This is where they go to kind of, if they're doing search warrants or raids and things like that, they utilize this space for that. In addition, the Transportation Authority Police also utilize this space for training. So that's why it does have somewhat of a state impact. So I think it's a pretty simple bill, and I would respectfully ask for the committee's favorable report on the bill. And Madam Chair, if I may, sorry, I got a little ahead of my skis there. I'd like to acknowledge President Krasinski is here as well from the Transportation Authority Police. I know that it's sponsor only, but I just wanted to make sure I acknowledged he was here today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the bill. Quick question, because you are our first local bill. Has this been voted on yet by the delegation?
It has not, Madam Chair. We're so far ahead of things here. It does have a hearing this week, and there's a gentleman here that it'll be coming in front of the rest of our delegation this week on Friday. I suspect that the county executive's office, I think, is likely to be in favor. I haven't seen that yet from the county executive, and we haven't had a delegation hearing, but that process is moving down the tracks, Madam Chair.
Great. Well, please do follow up with us after that, and definitely follow up with the subcommittee chair, Delegate Roberson, on the status.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, we will conclude this hearing. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Ways and Means Committee's own Delegate Griffith. House Bill 2, Subtraction Modification, Public Safety Retirement Income.
Good afternoon. It's good to be back. Very excited to have House Bill 2. Clearly means it's a priority of the General Assembly, so let's see what we can do. So thank you, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Delegate Mike Griffith, and I'm requesting a favorable report on HB 02, the Subtraction Modification Public Safety Retirement Income. So 3 years ago, not only this committee, but this body passed into law a subtraction modification increase from $15,000 to $20,000 a year for our veterans. And we see some positive results of that, but we want to make sure we're including other folks that were also had the benefit of the subtraction modification, and one of those is our first responders, our law enforcement, our firefighters, rescue, EMTs, and so on. And so what this bill seeks to do is the same benefit we extended to veterans by increasing their subtraction modification by $5,000. We're looking at the same thing for our first responders. And it is for folks at least 55 years of age. And why are we trying to do this? One, we want parity. Obviously, we want to make sure we're honoring all our heroes, our veterans, obviously, but also our first responders as well, and making sure we want to keep these folks here in the state of Maryland. Obviously, we've had significant outgrowth in the state, and we're unfortunately facing some very, very difficult financial times, and this small benefit would be something that we can significantly offer to our first responders, try to keep them here, try to keep them happy, making sure they're keeping more of those hard-earned dollars when they're out there risking their safety for all of us. So in closing, my bill is cross-filed by Senator Jack Bailey, and I would request a favorable report.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no questions, that ends the hearing on House Bill 2. We will now move forward with Delegate Vogel, House Bill 222, Educational Institutions, Opioid Overdose Reversing Medications Policy Requirements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and hello, committee colleagues. Here with House Bill 222, which seeks to create a more uniform policy across our state for the administration of Narcan in our schools. I want to present you with a couple scenarios here. One is of a student who, recognizing the threat that overdoses pose to his school and to his community, goes out of his way to get trained on how to administer Narcan, either goes and buys Narcan over the counter or gets it at a clinic, or I'm sure the Maryland Office of Overdose Response is watching right now. They go and they get it at one of the many fairs that the center is at, distributing Narcan. And the student is prepared to administer it, gets trained, is carrying it, but gets stopped in school and is found to be carrying Narcan and gets detention or some other sort of penalty for carrying a medication that is not authorized to be carried in school. That is the opposite of what we want our students to be doing right now. We want our students to be prepared, to be trained to save a classmate's life. Maybe they're carrying Narcan knowing that a family member at home might need it. Maybe it's just so that if they encounter someone on the way home or on the bus, they're prepared to administer Narcan. I want to present maybe a more extreme scenario here, which is a student that is trained, is prepared, is carrying Narcan, but hesitates in a situation where they might need to administer Narcan in school because based on the laws of the state right now, they might not be protected by the Good Samaritan law unless we pass this bill. So this bill seeks to create that uniform policy. It asks every school district to go and create their own policy allowing for local control. And I just want to make it very clear, right? Narcan is safe. It is effective. We know that when it is administered in the case of an overdose, it can be upwards of 90% effective at saving someone's life. And there is no risk. There is no danger. I know that it's a conversation that we've had over the years as it relates to students administering Narcan. And frankly, it is dangerous misinformation to say that students administering Narcan can be dangerous. So for every student across the state that is going out of their way to want to save a classmate's life, to want to save another person's life in their community at home, we should pass this bill to make sure they are protected in the classroom. With that, I urge a favorable report on House Bill 222.
Thank you so much, Delegate. We have a question from Delegate Eversole.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So this is a bill we've seen before. Does this bill differ from the one that basically was held in committee last year?
It does not. I will say there's a change this year, which is that the State Department of Education has now written favorable testimony. They do have some amendments, which are friendly amendments. But I think we are seeing growing consensus now on support for this bill.
Thank you.
Delegate Wims.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask, first of all, I've been trained in Narcan to help if there's an emergency, but you made me think today here in our own Maryland General Assembly, do you know if we have our officers and so forth have the Narcan here or been trained in case there's an emergency at the Maryland General Assembly? So just a question, since you brought up the Narcan.
Well, Delegate, I'm glad you're trained, and again, I'm sure that the folks from the Maryland Office of Overdose Response, who have been doing a phenomenal job driving down the numbers of overdoses and deaths in the state, would be very glad to hear that, because that's exactly what we want. We want more folks trained and prepared and carrying Narcan. You know, it really is, and I think to put an emphasis on your point specifically as it applies to this bill, it's important that students are prepared and carrying it, because it really is a matter of seconds and minutes to be able to administer it. There isn't necessarily always time for a student to go to the nurse's office and get the nurse to come over and administer it to a student. If you're on the bus or on the way home, you might not have time to find someone else. So we really, I mean, if students are going out of their way to get trained and be prepared, we don't want them getting punished for it, right? I think that is a very important point. And I think it's also, as I'm sure you know, as someone that's been trained, there really is no danger for administering it. And one last point that I want to clarify, this bill specifically focuses on, it extends these protections, these Good Samaritan protections for students that are administering Narcan in good faith. Right, so if there is a concern around abuse or use of this in some other way that as it is not intended, that would not be the administration of Narcan in good faith.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Any other questions? All right, seeing none.
Thank you.
This concludes the hearing on House Bill 222. I do want to mention again that this bill is jointly assigned with the Appropriations Committee. They're in a very important briefing and weren't able to come over, so they will watch later and follow up with any questions. So that does conclude our hearings for the day. And unless there are any announcements from subcommittees, which I don't think we're quite ready for that yet, that concludes our hearings for the day. Thank you, everyone.